Here's the thing, if you like Daytona, and if you still listen to Daytona, you're probably gonna like this one. After what feels like forever, Pusha T's finally dropped his latest project, It's Almost Dry. And I only say it feels like forever because Daytona dropped in 2018, and we've kind of gotten used to artists dropping every year and or multiple times a year. So when someone takes a little bit longer to drop a project, it's just seen as odd. But that also kind of raises the question of, if you take longer to make an album, is it going to be a better album? I don't know. We can talk about that eventually. But right now, we're talking about It's Almost Dry. With Pusha T in general, and I guess the knock that everyone has is that he only raps about coke. And if you're going into this project expecting anything else, I think you're going to be disappointed, because that's that's what he talks about. There are, some moments where he talks about other things, like on the intro track Brambleton, he talks about his former manager and how he went on Vlad TV and was just kind of talking a bunch of shit. And then on the final track, I I Pray for You with Malice and Labyrinth, he mentions his son, which is I would fully expect him to talk about his son way more, honestly. But he mentioned how he named his son Bricks, and kind of like a response to the first track and what his manager or former manager said. We also get, like, while I'm on I Pray for You, Malice's verse is great. And it's interesting because I was under the impression that he's only really doing secular music now, which makes sense because the last time we heard of him or heard from him was on Jesus is King. And that checks out. But here he just sounds like he's back to it. It's like he he did not miss a step. He went straight back into the coke raps like it was nothing. And him saying, "When I was in the mix, open up your nose like I'm cutting it with Vicks." That's just insane. Like, that's an insane bar to just throw out there. Especially if you're going to be a man of God now and don't want to talk about drug rap anymore. But speaking of the rest of the album, we do, like I said, get same things that we were kind of expecting from Pusha T for a Pusha T album. It's coke raps. I guess it's a little bit different for Pusha T though, because he does take some time between albums, and because he takes time from between albums, he's not really saturating the market with Pusha T coke bars all the time. I'm sure if he were to be someone who drops an album every year or every couple months, he may change the subject matter. But I think it's still fine. I think he can still rap about coke as much as he wants, because I'm always going to listen to it. So going through the rest of the project and continuing with random quotable lines, like, there's just so many of them. And the ones that are just coming to mind right now are off of Brambleton, where he said something along the lines of black Ferraris in a white hood. Now that's like a race war or something along those lines, because black Ferrari, white hoods, but also he's in the black man in a black Ferrari in a white neighborhood, but also coke. So that's crazy. But then also him saying that he's the cocaine Dr. Seuss on Let the Smokers Shine the Coupe. That's just hilarious to me. But that's the thing that Pusha T always does well. His delivery and presence on just any track is it's unique. Like, it's not even like, I was gonna say it's great, but it's like other people have presence on tracks, but the way that he comes in is just completely different from other people. And if you listen to Pusha T, you kind of know what I mean. Like, it's just the way he comes in, it's just different. Now going through the rest of the album, there are definitely some lulls, and that's only because the highs on this album are so high. They're just like insane, that anything that doesn't reach that level it just kind of pales in comparison. And the tracks that I'm referring to on this project that are a little bit slower per se is Just So You Remember, Call My Bluff, and Open Air. Now, that's not to say that these are bad tracks by any means, because these tracks are just like Pusha T's rapping. Like he's not trying to make a hype song like some of the other tracks may sound like. Like it's just him he's just delivering cold bars. So it's it may throw you off as you listen to it, but honestly, I think in terms of longevity, it's gonna sound a lot better. Because realistically, whenever I like the few times I've listened to this album so far, it's been good. Like afterwards, I'm like, okay, yeah, it was a good album, but it's to me, I think that's only because there's so many tracks that are like the production is just so high energy, and the way Pusha T raps on it is just it works really well. That when you have it thrown in, like have these slower songs thrown in, it may throw you off. Again, not that these are bad songs. It's just at the moment it may not like it may not sound as good, or it may not like it may not sit right with you, if that makes sense. Like it's just it doesn't feel right. But again, not that these are bad songs by any means, because realistically those are probably some of the better tracks, like just of him straight rapping. There were some other tracks that I do need to mention. I mean, we have Neck and Wrist with Jay-Z, and I know a lot of people didn't really care for that Jay-Z verse. I still think it's okay. The other thing that I would need to mention is the two tracks that Kanye's featured on. They sound weird. Like the tracks are fine, and Pusha T is fine, but when Kanye comes in, it's a little bit weird. The first one being Dreaming of the Past, where Kanye sounds like he's rapping to you, like into your ear, but then he can't control his volume. So when he goes to the other ear, he's a little bit louder, but it also sounds like he recorded it off of an iPhone. So it's interesting. It was definitely something that he did on purpose. Like, I don't think that he would let that go out like that without it being intentional. And then on Rock and Roll with Kid Cudi, yeah, it just didn't sound. It sounded weird. That's all. Like I'm sure it'll grow on me and I'll enjoy it later on. But as of right now, it's just like, okay, yay, what you doing? Speaking of Rock and Roll, that is the track with Kid Cudi, and Kid Cudi went out and said the only reason that this is still on the album is because he's cool with Pusha T, and he's never gonna do a track with Ye in the future. That's insane and probably true to an extent. Like we'll probably get a track from the two of them at some point soon, or not soon, but like in the future. But it's just, that I don't know what Kanye is doing with that. The other track that I feel like I need to bring up just because it intrigued me when I saw that it was on the track list is Scrape It Off with Uzi and Don Toliver. Now, this only kind of threw me off because Uzi, right? In recent memory, Uzi's been doing really well with features. Like his feature on Isaiah Rashad's album and Tyler the Creator's album were both really good. But it could also be seen that those are outliers because, with Tyler just, it's almost like he changes people entirely. So, that was unique in its own right. But then with The House is Burning, it wasn't too far off from what he normally does, it sounded like. It felt like he'd shifted a little bit, but not too much. So going into this one, I was like, I don't know how he's going to sound, but he sounded pretty damn good. Now, as far as Don Toliver goes, I'm still not the hugest fan of Don Toliver, but I know a lot of people really do like him. He didn't sound bad on here by any means. I just really have no feelings either way about Don Toliver. It did remind me of some of the tracks off of My Name Is My Name, though, so that was interesting. But yeah, overall, I feel like the album is pretty good. Like, it's an enjoyable listen. It's definitely something that I feel will hold up over the years. Like, here's the thing. If you like Daytona, and if you still listen to Daytona, you're probably going to like this one. If, like, equally or maybe more. The only reason I would say that Daytona was a little bit better is just because it was concise. you have 7 tracks. It was like what, 24 minutes, I believe. Whereas this one is 12 tracks at about 35 minutes. So it is a little bit longer. And yeah, it could have probably been condensed to about the same run length. But also, if you were to do that, it may not have sounded as good, if that makes sense. Like, what songs would you cut? Because like you could cut the ones that I mentioned that are a little bit slower, but by doing so, you're cutting out some of the better tracks too. So it's just weird. Um, but yeah, I think the album is good. I will be listening to it for the foreseeable future. I feel at least until Kendrick's album comes out, or until I get tired of Password's album, I guess. But honestly, if you went into this album thinking that Pusha T was going to rap about anything other than Coke, you're, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe listen to someone else. But if you were looking for whatever Pusha T does normally and what he does well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's all I got though. Let me know what you guys think of this project in the comments below, and where it may rank, and what your favorite tracks are so far. Also, like and subscribe while you're down there if you want to see more ramblings like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.